it's a very difficult question. I think if the situation continue like this, and if the war escalate, definitely the price of oil go well above what it is right now. I know it's over $110 a barrel, but I think there is a lot of many countries in the region and around the world, they are thinking about this, how long they can continue like this, and it might eventually international community, particularly those countries who their oil and supply coming from that strait, they might take action and join forces to make sure the ships securely pass through the Strait of Hormuz, which is just escorting that or joining the U.S. War against Iran, or push both sides to agree to a deal to de-escalate and bring the situation normal back to the Strait of Hormuz.
Giago, thanks from BBC Persian. Anthony Zerka, a big thought question for you from India.
My question is that when will this stop, the war between Iran and Israel, and when will the situation come under control? And that's my only question.
Question was recorded among a reasonable amount of hubbub, but it was a very clear question to you, Anthony. I suspect you might not necessarily have the answer, but when would hostilities, our question wants to know, end?
Yeah, and that has been the question since the beginning of this, and we've talked about it in the past, and it feels like at this point we are in a kind of a holding situation. There is not the ongoing massive bombing campaign that we saw during the early days of the war, but the war has not stopped. It is not over. Right now it appears to have shifted into a different kind of a standoff, a test of wills between the two nations, a test of ability to endure economic hardship by the two nations. And so the question is, this will stop when one side or the other cannot endure the pain anymore, whether the Iranians are unable to persevere without the oil revenue that is being shut off by the United States blockade, or whether the United States and Israel feel the pressure because of the damage this is doing to their economies and to the global economies, that they find some way to extricate themselves from this. But at least in the short term, there's no clear pathway out of this until one side or the other just blinks and decides to try to back down from the standoff we're seeing right now.
Anthony Zerka, our Washington correspondent, thank you. We're still keeping an eye on events in the Oval Office. I can see the U.S. Secretary of Health, Robert Kennedy, with his hands on the chair of Donald Trump, making a statement to a proclamation gathering there. President Trump, sitting in his chair in the Oval Office, is listening to what one of his cabinet members has to say. This is Outside Source on the BBC World Service. Whenever we get in the morning and click onto the website or look at what we call the prospects, what everyone in the BBC is doing that day, there are always the results of several investigations which have taken months and months and months by certain teams. And it's an investigation by one of my colleagues, Divya Talwar, that caught our attention today. And you can see it on the BBC website. The fact that her investigation has uncovered the unregulated world of self-styled baby sleep influencers, or sleep consultants. Some practitioners have legitimate medical training, but the investigation has found that others have no qualifications, offering dangerous advice to desperate, exhausted parents who will look to anywhere they can to get advice on how their newborns should sleep. Divya Talwar is with us now. How big, then, is the baby sleep industry?
Well, in our research, we came across hundreds and hundreds of accounts on social media, people describing themselves as baby sleep experts, consultants, coaches, whisperers, fairies, you name it. And anecdotally, we've been told the industry appears to be growing, it's booming, but the baby sleep world is completely unregulated. That means anyone can call themselves whatever they want and give support and advice to parents. There's no checks, no oversight, and no accountability. So it's impossible to know just how vast this industry is.
What did your investigation find?
I think it's important to say that some individuals are giving valuable, good advice to parents at a point when they, you mentioned, are desperate, so sleep deprived, they are vulnerable, they They just need some advice, maybe even just reassurance. But we've spoken to dozens of parents who have raised concerns with us about multiple people who they paid hundreds, some even thousands of pounds when they were desperate. And they said that they were encouraged to follow practices that go against NHS guidelines, things like putting babies in environments or positions that could significantly increase the risk of something called sudden and unexplained death in babies in their sleep under one. It's known as SIDS. You might remember it used to be called cot death. Now, I spoke to one new mum, Emily, who turned to a popular self-described sleep expert when her 4-month-old baby was waking regularly during the night.
It got to a point where we were on like hourly wake-ups. We were pretty broken. And it really got to a point where we were desperate. And as first-time parents, we just needed help. Once she'd decided that my son had reflux, she just said he needs to be sleeping on his front, he needs to move to full weaning and water, you need to go to the pharmacy and get infant Gaviscon, you need to be using suppositories. I was really, really upset. Really upset. It kind of felt scary that someone had just sat, medically diagnosed my child, had guided me to do things that is against guidance. I felt quite preyed upon.
And that was a new mother, Emily, there. I should say, Divya, you mentioned the NHS, which to our international audience is the National Health Service, the free at the point of use public health service here in the UK. And your team decided to check out that particular sleep expert mentioned by Emily, and you chose to do so undercover.
Yeah, that's right, because Emily wasn't the only parent who had raised concerns about Alison Scott Wright. She describes herself as an infant sleep expert. She's got tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. She's been on TV, she's written books, been endorsed by celebrities. So on the face of it, very credible. And when Emily, although Emily chose not to follow her advice, we have spoken to parents who did follow that advice when they say that they felt very vulnerable. So we booked our own consultation with Alison, with an undercover reporter posing as a new mum with a 9-week-old baby who was waking often in the night, fairly typical at that age. The consultation was online, and without ever seeing the baby, Alison suggested several diagnoses